Why do you spend so much of your life worried about things you cannot influence? It's a question we rarely ask ourselves because we are too busy reacting to the endless stream of concerns that rush toward us every morning. Before you have even taken your first conscious breath, the world has already begun shaping your emotional state. You wake up, reach for your phone, and in a matter of seconds, you're pulled into a storm that you never chose. You glance at the news, anxiety rises. You open social media, comparison begins. You read a message from someone, stress takes hold. And all of this happens before your first sip of coffee. You haven't stepped out of bed, and yet your mind is already overwhelmed, scattered, and emotionally burdened. This is the silent trap of modern life, starting your day by giving your energy to what you cannot control. What's happening in these first moments is subtle but deeply damaging. You're allowing the external world to design your internal world. You're letting headlines, algorithms, and the moods of others set the tone for your morning. Instead of choosing your focus, you're surrendering it. Instead of directing your thoughts, you're absorbing whatever the world throws at you. And without realizing it, you begin your day already behind, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. To understand this clearly, we need to introduce a foundational principle, the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Your circle of concern contains everything you worry about: global events, the economy, people's opinions, politics, the past, the future, the behavior of others. Your circle of influence contains everything you can actually do something about: your habits, your preparation, your choices, your attitude, your words, your responses. The problem is simple. Most people spend the majority of their energy living in the wrong circle. Let me illustrate this with a simple story. Sarah wakes up each morning with a knot in her stomach. She scrolls through negative headlines, gets frustrated at political debates online, worries about potential problems at work, and feels helpless about situations she cannot change. She hasn't even started her day, yet she is drained. She tries to plan her tasks, but her thoughts keep drifting toward concerns that lie far outside her control. And by the time she begins her actual work, she has already given her best energy to things she can't influence. Sarah's life feels heavy, not because her responsibilities are overwhelming, but because her attention is misplaced. This is the hidden burden so many people carry. They feel exhausted without understanding why. They feel stuck without seeing the invisible pattern behind it. They try to be productive, but their mind is tangled in everything that lies beyond their reach. And no amount of effort, discipline, or motivation can compensate for energy wasted on the uncontrollable. Here is the truth you must hear clearly. Your effectiveness begins the moment you stop investing energy where you have no power. The moment you redirect your attention toward your circle of influence, everything begins to change. Your clarity increases, your confidence rises, your stress decreases, your productivity improves, because you are no longer scattering your energy, you are focusing it. In this message, I'm going to show you a daily system, simple, practical, and transformational, that will train your mind to focus on what you can control, a system that will help you reclaim the mental and emotional energy you've been losing to concerns that are not yours to carry. If you are willing to master this shift, you will discover a level of peace, focus, and personal power that has been waiting for you all along. Let's begin. When you invest your thoughts, emotions, and energy into things you cannot influence, you don't just waste time, you weaken yourself. You begin to live in a constant state of tension because your mind is fighting battles it can never win. This is the hidden damage of focusing on the uncontrollable. It creates a life filled with stress, frustration, and exhaustion, even when nothing significant has gone wrong. The burden comes not from reality, but from attention placed in the wrong places. Think about how a typical reactive morning begins. You open the news and see headlines filled with fear, conflict, and uncertainty. Your body tenses, your mind starts racing. None of these events are within your influence, yet they immediately shape your emotional state. That is chronic stress, the result of allowing external concerns to dominate your inner world. And because you can't do anything about those concerns, the stress never resolves. It lingers, accumulates, and silently drains your resilience. Then comes emotional exhaustion. When your mind is busy imagining everything that might go wrong, you carry a weight that doesn't belong to you. You think about the economy collapsing, or what someone might say, or how someone might behave, or what disaster could happen in the future. This kind of thinking doesn't protect you, it paralyzes you. It keeps you living in scenarios that never truly exist, leaving you depleted before you've even taken your first intentional action of the day. It also affects your relationships. When you try to control other people, their opinions, their attitudes, their behaviors, you create tension and conflict. You cannot force someone to think differently, be kinder, be more responsible, or act the way you want. When your energy goes into controlling others, frustration becomes inevitable. You begin to interpret their unpredictability as a threat, when in reality, it's simply outside your influence. Relationships become strained, not because they are difficult, but because your expectations are misaligned with what you can actually impact. And let's be honest, productivity collapses when your mind is focused on the external. You may sit at your desk and try to work, but your thoughts drift to a headline, or a social media post, or someone else's behavior, or a fear you cannot do anything about. Your mind becomes divided, half in your work, half in your worries, and divided minds accomplish little. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your output. And when your attention is consumed by the uncontrollable, your output suffers. There's a psychological reason for all this. The human brain is wired to scan for threats, but when those threats are vague, distant, or impossible to resolve, the brain enters a loop of helplessness, alert but unable to act. This loop produces anxiety and a sense of powerlessness. You feel like you're preparing for something, but nothing changes. You feel busy, but not effective. You feel alert, but not productive. This creates a continuous tension between effort and outcome. The language of a person trapped in this pattern is easy to recognize. It sounds like, I hope they don't ruin my day. I can't believe the economy, the traffic, the weather, the politics, people are impossible. Every one of these statements reflects energy pointed in the wrong direction toward things that lie completely outside one's influence. And these phrases don't just describe reality, they reinforce a mindset of helplessness. Here is the principle you must remember. When your mind is occupied with what you can't control, you weaken your ability to influence what you can. You reduce your capacity to think clearly, to act decisively, to remain grounded, and to contribute meaningfully. You give your power away long before life even asks anything of you. This is not meant to discourage you, it is a gentle warning. If you do not shift this pattern, your days will continue to feel heavy and scattered. You will continue to feel drained without knowing why, frustrated without understanding the source, and distracted even when you want to be focused. But once you begin reclaiming your attention, once you begin investing energy where it can grow, your entire experience of life begins to change. At the heart of personal leadership lies a simple but transformative principle. Your energy expands whatever it touches. When you pour that energy into things you cannot control, you diminish yourself. But when you invest it into what you can influence, you grow steadily, quietly, powerfully. This is the essence of the two circles that shape every human life: the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Your circle of concern includes everything that worries you, frustrates you, or weighs on your mind, most of which lies beyond your power. The weather, the global economy, politics, people's opinions, past mistakes, future uncertainties, social trends, the decisions others make. These things may matter, but they do not answer to you. And when your mind lives here, your energy disperses. You feel busy but ineffective, stressed but powerless. Your circle of influence, however, is entirely different. It contains what is truly yours to shape: your habits, your character, your preparation, your focus, your choices, your words, your reactions, your integrity. These are the tools with which you design your life. When your attention settles here, your energy multiplies. You become calmer, more grounded, more effective, and ultimately far more powerful. Let me illustrate this with a simple metaphor. Imagine two people facing the same storm. The first curses the rain, the wind, the timing, the unfairness of it all. He stands there, frustrated, helpless, angry at the sky. The second person looks at the same storm, but instead of resisting reality, he adapts. He grabs a coat, adjusts his plan, rearranges his schedule, shifts his attitude. One person fights what cannot be controlled. The other influences what he can. The storm is identical, but their experience of it is entirely different. And this is where character enters the equation. Every time you choose influence over concern, your character grows. Every time you shift your energy from what frustrates you to what empowers you, you strengthen the core of who you are. Your confidence increases not because life gets easier, but because you become more capable to operate consistently in your circle of influence. You must develop the 4 unique human faculties that make proactivity possible. Self-awareness is your ability to recognize when your attention is drifting into the circle of concern. It's that moment when you catch yourself complaining about traffic, or worrying about someone's opinion, or dwelling on something you cannot change. Without self-awareness, your attention wanders unconsciously. With it, you can reclaim your focus. Moral conscience guides you back to what matters. When you choose a value, patience, service, integrity, courage, that value directs your behavior, even in difficult circumstances. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding ethically. Conscience keeps your focus aligned with who you want to be. Imagination allows you to see possibilities instead of problems. Instead of worrying about what might go wrong, you visualize productive responses, meaningful actions, and creative solutions. Imagination shifts the mind from fear to design, and independent will turns all of this into action. It is the ability to do what you should do, when you should do it, regardless of how you feel. Independent will keeps you anchored in your influence even when circumstances remain unchanged. These faculties aren't abstract, they are intensely practical. Consider a difficult meeting at work. You can focus on the attitudes, politics, or unpredictability of others, the circle of concern. Or you can focus on your preparation, your clarity, and your composure, the circle of influence. Or think about parenting. You cannot control your child's emotions, mood, or decisions, but you can control your tone, your example, your consistency, your presence. That is influence, not control. Or imagine a workplace challenge. You cannot force your colleagues to work differently, think differently, or decide differently, but you can elevate your own effectiveness, your communication, your creativity, your discipline. And when you do that consistently, your influence expands naturally. This is the pattern of an intentional life. Your influence grows every time you stop complaining and start acting. When you choose action over frustration, creation over fear, influence over concern, you reclaim the power that was always meant to be yours. Each shift, each choice, each moment of focus reshapes your life from the inside out. Your day will not naturally lead you toward peace, clarity, or influence. It will try to pull you into the circle of concern the moment you wake up. It will tug at you with headlines, interruptions, small annoyances, and the behavior of others. It will tempt you to react, to complain, to blame, to drift. You must deliberately pull yourself back. This is the daily discipline of proactivity, not a one-time decision, but a continuous act of reclaiming your energy from the places where it cannot grow. To help you do this, I want to introduce something I call the daily influence shift. It consists of 3 mental transitions that reshape how you move through the day. These transitions take only seconds to apply, but they have the power to change your emotional state, your effectiveness, and even your relationships. Proactivity is built on these small, constant shifts. The first shift is from frustration to focus. Every day presents situations you cannot change. Traffic, delays, lines, noise, distractions. Many people waste their energy fighting these realities. They tense up in traffic, mutter under their breath, or let impatience dictate their mood. But frustration adds nothing to your life. It only drains you. When you feel yourself slipping into irritation, shift your attention to focus. Use the moment. In traffic, listen to an audiobook that strengthens your mind. In a waiting room, breathe deeply and center yourself. During a delay, review your priorities. You transform the moment not by changing the circumstance, but by changing the value you extract from it. The second shift is from blame to responsibility. Blame keeps your energy stuck outside your influence on what others should have done, what circumstances should have been, or what life should have provided. Responsibility brings that energy back home. For example, when the weather disrupts your plans, you can complain or you can adapt. Prepare better clothing, rearrange your schedule, or adjust your expectations. When a colleague is difficult, you can criticize them endlessly, or you can improve your clarity, your communication, your boundaries. Responsibility is not about fault, it is about power. The more responsibility you take, the more influence you gain. The third shift is from expectation to creation. Many people live disappointed because they constantly expect others to change. They expect their boss to behave differently, their partner to understand intuitively, their friends to always be supportive. These expectations create frustration because they rely on variables you cannot control. Instead, shift into creation. Ask yourself, what can I contribute? What can I initiate? What can I improve? You become a creator of progress, not a victim of unmet expectations. When you stop waiting for others to act and start taking initiative, your influence begins to expand naturally. Let's bring this into everyday life with a few simple scenes. You sit down at your desk and open an email that instantly irritates you. Instead of letting it hijack your morning, pause. Identify what part of the situation you can influence your tone, your clarity, your timing, and respond from intention rather than emotion. Later, someone makes a passive-aggressive comment. You feel the temptation to react, but instead, you choose composure. You decide to lead the interaction through calm rather than escalate it through defensiveness. Or imagine a work project unexpectedly shifts, throwing off your schedule. Instead of spiraling into frustration, you quickly reassess, adjust your priorities, and move forward with purpose. These small shifts might seem insignificant, but they are the building blocks of internal strength. When you focus on what depends on you, your peace increases and your anxiety decreases. Your emotional stability grows. Your decisions improve. Your relationships strengthen. And your sense of personal power expands not because the world has changed, but because you have changed the way you engage with it. Here is the truth you must hold on to. Your influence expands when your energy is no longer wasted on what you never controlled. Every time you make one of these shifts, from frustration to focus, from blame to responsibility, from expectation to creation, you reclaim a piece of your life. And over time, these pieces come together to form a life led from strength, intention, and deep personal leadership. Proactivity is not something you hope for. It is something you train. It is a discipline, a practice, a daily investment in the part of your life where real change is possible. If you want your influence to grow, you need a system that consistently pulls your attention back to what you can control. That system doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, simplicity is its greatest strength. I call it the Daily Covey Influence Method, a 5-step practice you can apply anywhere, at any time, in less than a minute. The first step is the reset pause. Whenever you feel your mind slipping into worry, frustration, or fear about something outside your control, pause for 10 to 20 seconds. Take a slow breath. This pause interrupts the automatic emotional spiral that pulls you into the circle of concern. You can apply it when you're about to walk into work, before responding to a tense message, or right before you enter a challenging meeting. The reset pause is your moment of awareness, a moment to reclaim yourself before your emotions decide for you. The second step is name the concern. Say quietly in your mind, "This is outside my influence." Labeling the concern immediately reduces its emotional weight. Instead of swirling in vague anxiety, You bring the issue into clear focus. When you give something a name, you take away its power to control you. You acknowledge that the situation belongs in the circle of concern, not in your inner world. This simple verbal recognition frees your energy from being trapped in something you cannot change. The third step is identify one influence action. This is the pivot, the moment you shift from concern to influence. Ask yourself, what can I do right now that is within my control? It doesn't need to be big. It could be clarifying a question, preparing more thoroughly, adjusting your attitude, organizing a step, sending a message, or simply choosing a different inner posture. Your influence grows through small, deliberate actions. By identifying a single step you can take, you shift from helplessness to leadership. The fourth step is act immediately. Once you identify your action, don't wait, don't overthink, don't negotiate with your emotions. Take the step the moment it becomes clear. Action breaks rumination. Action dissolves anxiety. Action recenters your mind and strengthens your identity. When you act, you reinforce the belief, I am a person who focuses on what I can influence. And with repetition, this identity becomes your natural operating mode. The fifth step is close with identity language. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior shapes results. Finish the process by speaking a phrase that anchors you to who you want to be. Something like, I focus on what grows. I choose influence over concern. This isn't positive thinking, it's identity forming. It reminds you that your power lies within your choices, not your circumstances. When spoken consistently, these words program your mind to look for influence rather than to slip into concern. These 5 steps form the core of the method, but there are complementary routines that deepen the transformation. One of the most powerful is the influence journal. Each morning, write down 3 things you can influence today, just 3. This simple practice trains your brain to scan for possibilities rather than problems, to look for the controllable instead of the overwhelming. Another practice is what I call concern detox. Remove or reduce the sources that feed unnecessary worry, news overload, excessive social media, opinions of people who drain your energy, constant comparisons. Create boundaries that protect your mind from being flooded by concerns that don't belong to you. There is also influence habit training, which consists of deliberately stacking small wins early in the day. Answer 1 message with clarity. Complete 1 task fully. Set 1 boundary respectfully. These micro victories reinforce the identity of a proactive person and widen your circle of influence over time. Finally, engage in a values review each day. Choose 1 value, integrity, focus, compassion, perseverance, and ask yourself how you can live it actively. Values direct your influence. They give your actions purpose and coherence. When you practice these routines, something powerful happens. Your anxiety decreases because your energy is no longer scattered. Your clarity increases because your focus is anchored to what matters. Your progress accelerates because you are acting instead of merely worrying. And most importantly, your inner sense of leadership grows. You stop feeling like life is happening to you, and you start experiencing the truth. You have the power to shape your day, your decisions, and your direction. Where your attention lives, your life follows. This is one of the most important truths you will ever learn about personal leadership. Your attention is the gateway to your emotions, your decisions, your habits, and ultimately your destiny. When your attention rests on what you cannot control, your life becomes heavy. But when your attention stays aligned with what you can influence, your life becomes focused, intentional, and filled with quiet strength. Every day, you are shaping the direction of your life simply by deciding where your mind will live. I want you to imagine the version of yourself you will become when you consistently place your energy where it can grow. Picture yourself calmer because your mind is no longer pulled into the storms of the external world. You wake up anchored, not anxious. You move through your day with a clarity that once felt unreachable. You no longer carry unnecessary burdens because you've learned to release what was never yours to fix. Imagine yourself more focused. Your attention no longer scatters into dozens of worries. You invest it intentionally into actions that matter. Your work becomes deeper. Your relationships become more meaningful. You listen better, speak with more purpose, and choose your responses with maturity. Imagine yourself more effective. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable because you're directing your energy with precision. You're no longer distracted by what others think, what others do, or what might happen. You are anchored in proactive action, step by step, moment by moment. Imagine yourself less anxious, not because life becomes easier, but because you have learned to stop feeding fear with attention. You've trained your mind to look for influence instead of concern, for possibility instead of helplessness. And with that shift, your inner world becomes lighter. And imagine yourself more influential, not through force or control, but through example, through calm presence, through consistent behavior, through the strength of someone who chooses their response, their attitude, and their focus. Influence is not something you demand. It is something you earn by mastering yourself. Remember this: leadership begins the moment you stop giving power to what you cannot control. The moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your life. The moment you choose to invest in your circle of influence, you begin shaping your future from the inside out. This is the foundation of character, the essence of proactivity, and the heart of true personal leadership. So let me speak to you directly. Today, choose influence. Today, choose intention. Today, choose you. Not the you shaped by fear or external pressure, but the you who is capable of clarity, responsibility, and deliberate action. That version of you is already within reach, just one choice of attention away. Carry this affirmation with you as a guiding principle. Each day, I invest only where my influence can grow. Repeat it, live it, and let it gradually reshape the way you approach every challenge and every decision. And when you feel ready to go deeper, join me in the next message. We'll explore how habits, integrity, and purpose can expand your influence even further, helping you build a life led not by reaction, but by character. This journey continues one focused, intentional choice at a time.